Good afternoon, I'm DK Rosta, and this is TTT Live. The Moruga Agro Processing and Light Industrial Park will be officially opened today. Prime Minister Dr. Keith Rowley is expected to give the feature address. We're bringing you live coverage on TTT, Talk City 91.1 FM, and on Facebook at TTT Live Online. We take you now to St. Mary's Village, Moruga, for the opening ceremony.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Please remain standing. I ask you please to excuse me from wearing my mask throughout the formalities. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, please remain standing for the national anthem of the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago and the opening prayer. Almighty God, the creator of the universe, we thank you for the blessing of initiating yet another initiative for the development of our nation. We thank you for the opportunity to encourage economic growth and to improve the quality of life for our citizens. We are ever mindful of the fact that you have blessed us with so much, even in the midst of this uncertain, changing global and socio-economic climate. You have given our leaders the ability to focus and logically steer the path of progress with stability. We invite your blessings today at the launch of this new initiative, as there's nothing we can achieve without you. This supplication is for the advancement of your glory and the trust and welfare of our blessed land. Grant safety and development for these projects and all its users for generations to come. Amen. Amen. Namaste. Ladies and gentlemen, please be seated. Dr. the Honorable Keith Rowley, Prime Minister of the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago and Member of Parliament for Diego Martin West. Senator the Honorable Paula Gobi-Schoon, Minister of Trade and Industry. Senator the Honorable Clarence Rambarat, Minister of Agriculture, Lands and Fisheries. Senator the Honorable Kazim Hussain, Minister of Rural Development and Local Government. Dr. the Honorable Lovell Francis, Minister of State in the Ministry of Education and Member of Parliament for Moruga Tableland. Senator the Honorable Avinash G. Singh, Parliamentary Secretary in the Ministry of Agriculture, Lands and Fisheries. Ms. Alain Ovid, Acting Permanent Secretary in the Ministry of Trade. Chairman of ETEC, Imtiaz Ahmad, and other senior officials of ETEC. Mrs. Tamika Charles Phillips, Chief Executive Officer of the Urban Development Corporation of Trinidad and Tobago, UDICOT, and other UDICOT officials. Ms. Stacey Adams, Acting President of Invest TT Limited. Specially invited guests, exhibitors at today's opening, members of the media. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the official opening of the Moruga Agro Processing and Light Industrial Park, the country's first, located right here in the Southlands. My name is Natasha, and I know that they say women don't sweat, we just glow, and I really apologize. I thought I would be doing the feminine thing, but obviously I'm not. But it's so wonderful to be here to celebrate in this very significant occasion. Now, I am a South girl. My father worked in the oil fields back in the day, and Moruga was my old stomping ground. You always find this cornucopia of abundance, and of course, a little tattoo on lap to go with it. But it's really such a wonderful thing to see this evolve and to create opportunities and wealth for our country and for the people of Moruga. So today we celebrate another triumph and learn the realm of possibilities to emerge from this venue. I'd like to first invite to do the opening remarks, Mr. Imtiaz Ahmad, Chairman of ETEC.
Thank you, Natasha. And back in 2018, when we came to this said site for the sod turning, it was not raining. It was pouring, storming rain, it was muddy conditions, and it must be a testament to the success of this park that we are in blazing hot sun today. Dr. The Honorable Keith Rowley, Prime Minister of the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago and Member of Parliament for Diego Martin West, Senator the Honorable Paulo Gopiskun, Minister of Trade and Industry, Senator the Honorable Clarence Rambarat, Minister of Agriculture, Land and Fisheries, Senator the Honorable Kazim Hussein, Minister of Rural Development and Local Government, Dr. the Honorable Lovell Francis, Minister of State in the Ministry of Education and Member of Parliament for Moruga Tableland, Senator the Honorable Avinash Singh, Parliamentary Secretary in the Ministry of Agriculture, Lands and Fisheries, Ms. Alain Ovid, Acting Permanent Secretary, Ministry of Trade and Industry, fellow directors of ETEC, President and other senior officials, Mrs. Tamika Charles Phillips, CEO of UDICOT and other officials, Ms. Stacey Adams, Acting President of Invest TT, exhibitors, specially invited guests, members in the media, a pleasant good afternoon, a warm, hot welcome to the official opening of ETEC's 18-acre Moruga Agro Processing and Light Industrial Park. First, let me thank you and express my appreciation for you all accepting the invitation to attend today's open ceremony. The ongoing COVID pandemic remains a top concern and a priority to all of us. And as you can see, we have implemented and taken on board the required health and safety protocols for your well-being. Today marks a proud moment for Moruga and the environs, prospective tenants, citizens of Trinidad and Tobago, and ETEC. As chair of ETEC Board of Directors, I'm equally proud. This is the first agro-processing light industrial park in Trinidad and Tobago. This park will serve as a hub of economic activity and wealth creation in the agro-processing sector. And ETEC continues to deliver on its mandate to develop new economic zones in support of government's diversification trust. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm sure you will agree with me that Trinidad and Tobago's focus on economic diversification as a strategy for social and economic stability is very much necessary. During these unstable times of fluctuating international prices of energy, commodities, and COVID challenges, governments which are dependent on oil and gas find it necessary to explore opportunities to further diversify the economy. ETEC has been supporting the country's diversification trust since the company's inception in 2003 through the development, maintenance, lease management of all industrial parks. We facilitate a significant number of businesses and manufacturing activities in the non-oil and gas sector. Now, as we commission this afternoon, this park, we venture into new territory and a sector marked for diversification, the agro-processing sector. It is our expectation that the activities of this park would provide employment, assist in reducing the food import bill, increase export potential, and positively contribute to the GDP. In May 2018, Senator the Honorable Paula Gopi-Schoon, Senator Dr. the Honorable Lovell Francis, Mr. Noel Garcia, and myself had the honor of turning the sod for this park. Thereby, we followed up with several public consultation meetings with all the primary stakeholders on the project. The feasibility study showed that Moruga was one of the best suited locations in the country for a park of this nature. This Moruga Park will generate socio-economic opportunities that will redound to the benefit of the residents of Moruga, the tenants, and by extension, the nation of Trinidad and Tobago. This facility, as you can see, well, as you would soon see outside, comprises 5 factory shells. Currently, the factory shell we are occupying for the opening is earmarked for the processing of hot peppers. There are 4 other shells which will be used or earmarked for the processing of cocoa, fish, root crops, and some other industries that we have high interest. There are 6 additional lots, some of which potential tenants have shown keen interest in occupying. Ladies and gentlemen, growth and development are never easy to achieve. It takes significant collaboration, teamwork, and dedication. A number of stakeholders have contributed significantly to making this facility a reality. And on behalf of ETEC, its directors, and senior officials, we thank all parties for their dedication and support. We look forward to this park being a catalyst to forging positive partnerships with the tenants and making it a model of success. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ahmed. So right now, I'd like to invite Senator the Honorable Clarence Rambarat, Minister of Agriculture, Land and Fisheries, to give his remarks.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon. Honorable Prime Minister, Dr. Keith Rowley, my colleague, Senator the Honorable Paula Gopi-Schoon, Minister of Trade and Industry, my colleague, Senator Avinash Singh, Parliamentary Secretary in the Ministry of Agriculture, Land and Fisheries, my colleague, Dr. Lovell Francis, Member of Parliament for Moruga, my friend, Winston Gypsy Peters, who's finally found his way on the same side as me, the right side. He's made the right choice, and I welcome him. And I want to say to you, in 2014, coming into 2015, I had the opportunity to speak on all the national platforms in Moruga alongside Honorable Prime Minister. I had the opportunity to walk when he walked in Moruga, and I had the opportunity to walk in Tablan and other parts of the constituency with my friend, Dr. Francis. I am no stranger to Moruga. 4 of my siblings were born in Moruga. My family lived a considerable part of their life in Moruga between Saunders Trace and Edward Trace. And in walking with the Prime Minister throughout the constituency, I got a very clear sense, and we all got a very clear sense, that he understood what Moruga needed and was really driven to make things happen, particularly in Moruga. And some of the things that stand out, in particular, as a minister and as a citizen of this country, as I've gone around this country on the village improvement program, for example, the opportunity for people to contribute labor, and the state contributes capital and material to improve their houses, and the opportunity to end up with a very good two-bedroom house that is more than just a starter house. I've been through Moruga right up to Rampanalgas to see people receiving and to see the joy on the faces of the individuals and the community to receive that. But that was born here when Prime Minister walked this area. The other thing we found with this part of the country was the lack of opportunity driven by opportunities within the constituency itself. I always say that on the East-West corridor, people could walk into factories and walk into places to work. If you live close to urban Port of Spain, you can go into stores and shoe shops and malls and so on and get employment. But as Gypsy would tell you in Mayaro, and Lovell will tell you in Moruga, and Prime Minister will tell you in Tobago, if you do not have economic activity in your community, then the opportunities for growth and development, notwithstanding the quality of the education, will always be minimal. So the critics will always be critics. Those who are well-heeled and well-fed and living in urban areas will think nothing of this project. But those who live here and those who are familiar with rural Trinidad and Tobago will understand that this could be, well managed, a catalyst for development for this community. I'm very proud to associate myself as somebody born and grown in Southeast Trinidad, but deeply embedded in Central Trinidad now, and I hope to permanently find myself there. I am very happy to be here. This is the result of a vision of our Prime Minister. I know we have a lot of criticism, but as I say, our critics will always criticize, but we have a lot to be thankful for. Congratulations, Prime Minister. Congratulations, Minister of Trade and Industry. Hard-working minister who is driven to succeed, and a minister who is also my campaign manager, so you know where that will put us. Thank you very much for the opportunity to say a few words.
Thank you, Honorable Minister. So I'd like to invite now the Honorable Minister, Senator, the Honorable Paula Gopi-Scoon, Minister of Trade and Industry. She's rushing me.
Thank you very much. Good morning, everyone. Dr. the Honorable Keith Christopher Rowley, the Prime Minister of the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago and Member of Parliament for Digger Martin West, my colleague, Honorable Clarence Rambrat, Minister of Agriculture, Lands and Fisheries, Dr. the Honorable Lovell Francis, Minister of State in the Ministry of Education and Member of Parliament for Moruga, Senator the Honorable Avinash Singh, Parliamentary Secretary in the Ministry of Agriculture, Lands and Fisheries, Ms. Aileen Ovid, the newly minted Permanent Secretary, Acting Permanent Secretary in the Ministry of Trade and Industry, and this is her first outing. Chairman of ETEC, Imtiaz Ahmed, and other senior officials of ETEC that are here with us. Members of staff from Udicott and San, Winston Gypsy Peters, the next MP for Moruga Tableland, and especially invited guests, all of the farmers and budding agriculturists as well. This is a watershed event. And I say so because today marks the official opening of the first agro-processing park in Trinidad and Tobago. It is and will remain a tangible representation of this administration's commitment to not only producing the food we eat and building food security, but purposely strengthening the value added as we now seek to develop this new industry for domestic and foreign markets and for developing linkages with the manufacturing sector. This new agro-processing facility, which also caters for light manufacturing, is not simply a government project. It is an investment by the government for the people of Moruga and the wider agricultural counties of Victoria, Nariva Mayaro, and St. Patrick East and West, who will partake in this as well. So, ladies and gentlemen, we are building communities. The government has invested just about 90 million in the park, and we've created close to 100 jobs in the construction phase, and even more jobs are expected when fully occupied. But more than that, we see this park as creating opportunities for business. Moruga has a long tradition of agricultural commodities production, but through collaboration between the experienced farmers on the one hand, who are committed, who are resilient, and who are resourceful, and then the young, well-educated agricultural entrepreneurs like Avinash Singh, a number of very promising farm-based value chains, cooperatives, and new agro clusters can emerge. And this park will harness the human capital within this region by encouraging the transformation of existing farming systems that will now create value-added exportable products with high standards and levels of technology. An engagement with Udicot, the project manager, the services of a company called GSAL Designs was contracted to complete a very comprehensive master plan for the project, so that we wanted to justify and to understand what we were getting into. And for the purpose of determining whether this park will be of benefit to the economy of Trinidad and Tobago, a number of commodities with the potential for providing adequate supplies of raw material for agro-processing were identified. Baseline data sourced from the Ministry of Agriculture, Lands and Fisheries was used to zero in on a list of commodities based on acreages that are now under cultivation. And we came up with cassava and other root crops, fish, pineapple and other fruits, cocoa, Moruga red and scorpion hot peppers, and teak. And these were determined to be the most feasible agriculture commodities. And of course, the results of the financial analysis of park operations show that this project would be financially viable. So the park, which is close to forests and fisheries and agricultural commodities, will provide leasable shared space at very low rates. The park consists of 11 developed land lots, 5 lots with purpose-built factory shells available for leasing like you are in now, while 6 are undeveloped and await further leasing. In addition to the park having all of the necessary infrastructural facilities necessary for conducting business, such as an established road network and all necessary utilities, telecommunications, electrical and water supply, drainage, sewage, and a waste treatment facility, the 5 factory shells are also outfitted with offices and washrooms and, of course, cold storage spaces where needed. To date, during construction and through the activities of InvestTT, more than 50 persons and entities have shown interest in the park, and there are 9 constructive leads which are now being followed by InvestTT. A unique advantage offered to the potential tenants of the park is the availability of the support services by affiliated agencies, like NAMDEFCO, which provides various capacity building programs and marketing services. ICA, which is the Inter-American Institute for Cooperation on Agriculture in Trinidad and Tobago. And I was so very pleased to see Dr. Francis on a visit here just a few weeks before. And ICA has both in-house capacity and external access to technical expertise, best practices, practical experiences, knowledge platforms, and expert networks. Also, CARIRI, the Caribbean Industrial Research Institute, which provides a comprehensive range of support services for food processors, including product and process development, product consultancy, training, food safety systems and audits, contract processing, which is very important for those that are now starting out, facility layout, product testing, and business support services. And of course, the Agriculture Development Bank, which specializes in development financing for firms in the agricultural sector. And of course, also InvestTT, which will assist firms in building capacity to export. I also want to remind all of these potential and existing agro-processors that the Ministry of Trade and Industry also has the Grant Fund facility, which gives matching support of up to $250,000 for machinery and equipment, together with also, of course, the wide portfolio of incentives held under the Ministry of Agriculture, Lands and Fisheries. These remain available to you. I'm satisfied today that really we have transformed what initially was good intention and a plan to an asset which will create opportunities for the people of Moruga and, of course, the neighboring communities. We believe in the people of Moruga and know that they are ready to take that bold step to improving their future and, in so doing, contributing to the transformation of the domestic economy. We remain at your side as together we see this project developing to its fullest. I want to thank Roscon, the contractors of this project, who have done exceedingly well. This is a fine establishment that we are sitting in here today, and it's really a great accomplishment. I also want to thank our Prime Minister, Dr. Rowley, and all of my cabinet colleagues as well, Dr. Lovell Francis, who really believed in this project, and I know who will be standing with the farmers to ensure that the project is indeed a success. Thank you, Dr. Rowley. Thank you to Minister of Agriculture, Lands and Fisheries, Dr. Lovell Francis. Thank you all for coming today as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Minister, for your hard work, and we wish you and your team all the best. We look forward to this facility just adding so much more to the citizenry of Trinidad and Tobago and, of course, to Moruga. Right now, I ask you to please direct your attention to the screens as we have a short video presentation. Thank you.
Imagine a space committed to agricultural development in the southern region of Trinidad. The Urban Development Corporation of Trinidad and Tobago Limited is pleased to introduce that space as the Moruga Agro Processing and Light Industrial Park. Spread across more than 7 hectares of state land, this park is tactically located at Saunders Trace within the heart of Moruga, and is the first of its kind for this country. Under the remit of the Ministry of Trade and Industry, several agencies were tasked with the execution of this project. Since May 2017, UDECOT, along with Evolving Technologies and Enterprise Development Company Limited (ETEC), have collaborated to ensure that efficient project management services were provided. Supporting agencies such as the National Agricultural Marketing and Development Corporation, NAMDEFCO, Invest TT, Inter-American Institute for Cooperation on Agriculture, IICA, Trinidad and Tobago Delegation, the Caribbean Industrial Research Institute, CARIRI, and the Agricultural Development Bank of Trinidad and Tobago, ADB, all play a vital role in the successful operations of this initiative. This park includes 5 vacant factory shells and 6 lots of land with essential infrastructural features. Though situated in a woodland area, the park stands secure with perimeter fencing and is located just 62 kilometers from the port of Point Lisas, providing an ease of access to the location. Each factory shell is outfitted with major utilities, office spaces, washroom facilities, and an 18,000-gallon water tank storage. The monthly lease rate for factory shells start at TT $1.75 per square feet. Land lots offered to lease are significantly cleared of heavy vegetation and provides readily available utility connections to farmers. Tenants of this leasable space will enjoy major utilities like electricity, cable, telephone, internet, water, and wastewater treatment. These lots are accessible by an established road network and an allocation of 8 parking spots per lot. Land lots start at TT $16,000 per acre annually, and a premium for each land lot at $17,300 TT dollars per acre. A common area maintenance fee will also be applied to these listings. Tenants will be responsible for obtaining all necessary regulatory approvals, security of their space, and general maintenance of the park. Simply put, this park will be a key location where agricultural and forestry products are processed to add value to the natural resources of Moruga and its environs. Even more, The operation of this park creates employment opportunities and a major stream of income for citizens.
What the Prime Minister have done in St. Mary's for the youths to come, he have done a very good thing in terms of this processing plant he opened. He create jobs for the youths around. Now I hope my Prime Minister open this thing, because what he have done here, he have done something very well, good for you. Thanks.
Ensuring the highest quality of project management and development services, UDECOT continues to deliver impactful projects, and today we are proud to deliver this facility, contributing to the growth of this country's agricultural sector. UDECOT, signed, sealed, and delivered.
Signed, sealed, and delivered. Very impressive. So right now, to deliver the feature address, I would like to invite Dr. the Honorable Keith Rowley, Prime Minister of the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago.
Thank you very much, our Lady of Ceremony this evening. Permit me to welcome to the South Coast, yet another time, my cabinet colleague, Senator the Honorable Paula Gopi-Skoon, the minister with the responsibility for getting this done through her association and responsibility for ETEC. I would also like to acknowledge the presence of my other cabinet colleague, Senator the Honorable Clarence Rambarat, Minister of Agriculture, Lands and Fisheries, my parliamentary colleague of the last term, the Honorable Lovell Francis, who represented this district, Parliamentary Secretary in the Ministry of Agriculture, Land and Fisheries, Senator Avinash Singh, who is himself involved in the farming business, Permanent Secretary, Acting Permanent Secretary in the Ministry of Trade, Ms. Aileen Alinovid, the Chairman of ETEC, Mr. Imtiaz Ahmad, and senior officials of ETEC, Mrs. Tamika Charles Phillip, the CEO of UDECOT, Ms. Stacey Adams, acting president of Invest TT, specially invited guests, members of the media. Permit me to acknowledge, some interesting guests we have with us today. Mr. Shamim Mohammed, Group Executive Chairman of Nutrimix, who is also Chairman of CAL, but he's involved in agricultural food production. Mr. Leon Granger, the CEO of the Cocoa Development Company of Trinidad and Tobago, who has a keen interest in the resurgence of the cocoa business here in the South Coast. Mr. Rennie Sarabjit, President of the Rio Claro Cocoa and Coffee Marketing Cooperative. Mr. Ian Bahadur Singh, Managing Director of the Red Hot Trini Peppers. That sounds like a netball team. Mrs. Rachel Ann Lee, President and Chairman of the Moruga Hill Rice Cooperative. Mr. Ramesh Ramsamir, Chairman of the Tableland Pineapple Farmers Association. Mr. Patrick Warner, President of the Grand Chemin Village Council here in Moruga. Mr. George Mitchell, President of the Laloon Village Council in Moruga. Mr. Samuel Hills, President of the Indian Walk Village Council of Moruga. And last but not least, a traveling man, my former parliamentary colleague, a former Minister of Government in Trinidad and Tobago, now having made the full circle, has found the right place. My friend, fellow Calypsonian, extempo expert, and a community leader in the best sense of the word, Mr. Winston Gypsy Peters of Moruga, Mayaro, and everywhere in Trinidad and Tobago. He's been everywhere. And may I acknowledge the exhibitors who opened the proceedings here today and showing us what is available in Trinidad and Tobago. And of course, our members of the media, many of whom have traveled from the north, or I've seen somebody from the north, but I presume that most are from the south. Members of the media who will inform the public of what is happening here in the deep south of Trinidad and Tobago. Ladies and gentlemen, in this job of Prime Minister, there are many days when your spirit can be low because one can get the impression that as hard as you work, as optimistic as you are, the number of problems to be dealt with are so numerous that there aren't enough days in the year to get them all done and to get them done to the satisfaction of those whom you have committed to serve. But there are also days when you feel very satisfied that your existence in the office has not been in vain because you have been able to help or create opportunity for more than somebody, but for a lot of people as you pass this way but once. Today is such a day for me. I feel very satisfied, and I feel that my tenure as Prime Minister has impacted and will continue to impact on the lives of these people in the far south of our country, who will, by their own endeavors here, impact on people elsewhere in our country and outside of our country. I made a promise to the people of Moruga 5 years ago when I campaigned in this area, asking them to support a candidate of the PNM. And if that support is forthcoming and we win enough seats and we become the government of Trinidad and Tobago, there was a vision amongst us to bring change and opportunity to the people of the south coast of Trinidad. Because there is tremendous potential in this area, but potential is just that, potential, something that can be achieved. And as I look over here, permit me to recognize my friend who walked with me in 2015 and was there in 2015 when we made that commitment. A special acknowledgement to my friend and colleague, Dr. Lovell Francis, the outgoing MP for Moruga. Excuse me for not identifying him in the protocols there. But Dr. Francis, he was the candidate then. And we walked the length and breadth of this area, holding out the promise to the people of the area that if we are given the authority to make the decisions that come with managing the cabinet and the country's affairs, there are some things that can be done in this area which could bring change and to move us from potential to reality. You would have heard my colleague, the Minister of Agriculture, mention what happened with housing improvement. You would have seen us working on the main road into these areas. And today, what we are opening here is accepting a finished product. A promise made in 2015, a delivery being done before, at the end of the term, with the help of the state agencies cooperating, ETEC, UDICOT, the Ministry of Agriculture, and other government departments. And we have now completed the first agro processing park in Trinidad and Tobago. That should come as a surprise to many people. Because when you consider the amount of talk about agriculture in this country, one would have thought that somewhere in Trinidad and Tobago, agro-processing would have demanded that a park specialized for that purpose would exist somewhere. But you know, there's a lot of talk about agriculture in this country, especially from people who know nothing about agriculture and who want to have nothing to do with getting sweaty and getting down and dirty in the soil. Talking about agriculture. But we have to move from the talk. And today we have moved the needle considerably from talking about agriculture to doing something about agriculture in Trinidad and Tobago. Because this park is a catalyst to attract to it the use of agricultural products. Primary products which can be and will be produced in this part of the country and produced in such volume that they will require these facilities to convert them from easily perishable fresh produce to a state, either to make them more easily available to the rest of the country as fresh produce, or to package them in some way that they can last longer on shelves, or better, to get them to the port for export outside to earn. And of course, when you do that, what you're asking here for is the involvement of persons who will do that growing of produce. And it's not only about men. Women can get involved in a big way here too. Because if you look around what's happening in Trinidad and Tobago in some of the small businesses, you will see a lot of very successful women engage in small business, and some of them in agriculture and some of them in agro-processing. And here in this community, where there are a lot of people who felt neglected and being left behind by the rest of the national economy, what we have brought to them by this investment of $90 million in this park, we've brought them opportunity to get on the bandwagon of production in Trinidad and Tobago. They have good lands around them. Those lands have some farmers on them. But the farmers who are there, they are limited, they're stymied by an inability to have their produce taken from them in a consistent way, in large enough volumes to make them grow, to be satisfied that their businesses and their investments can grow. Because what they're engaged in is producing product which can be taken to market. But if they all go to market on the same day with the same produce, they get a glut, they get a price loss, and then of course they don't go into their crop. But if arrangements are in place for them to have an offtake of what they produce on a consistent basis, on a price that is steady and stable, then they can produce to their fullest capacity. And as they do so, more of those products are available in the country, and that is how we increase our food supply and improve our food security. And then, of course, we produce more than we need in the country as these farmers get down in this way. And then we look to export, either because the product is exotic and is required abroad, like our hot peppers, or that we have enough for us and we must look to sell to others outside of the region. The government has not only invested in the infrastructure to bring about this incentive for production. What the government has also done is to say to farmers and entrepreneurs who will grow and who will appear to use these facilities, we have said to them, we so need you and what you will do with these facilities that we want to encourage you to come and to stay in the business and to invest and not be fearful by saying to you, whatever profit you make in this endeavor is tax-free. The agricultural sector has been made by the edict of the parliament through the Minister of Finance and the government of the day that any investment you make in agriculture, the proceeds as profit is tax-free, meaning that you get carried by the rest of the country. You don't have to pay towards the roads. You don't have to pay towards the water. You don't have to pay towards the lights. You don't have to pay towards the health of the community. You get to go a free ride, tax-free in agriculture, because it is so important that the nation be fed. And understanding that we were underperforming in agricultural production, that this incentive of tax break has been given and exists. So the persons who will come to use these facilities, attracted by the presence of the potential farmers in the area, or the farmers themselves who want to grow either as cooperatives or as individual investors, they now being called to these facilities to produce to the fullest extent, can also smile to the bankers and say, whatever I make will come here as my take, because the state will take no profits from me. What more incentive could the state offer to the people of the South Coast but say to them, you are not required to use your potential. And nowadays, the technology is so good and available that we are not dependent on the fertility of the actual natural soil. All you may need is the space to construct and to build new technologies where growth is not only dependent on the nature of the soil, but you can control the ingredients that go into the soil, into your substrate, and you can grow produce of one kind or another. But of course, there are others that depend on the soil, and this area is good in the southern part of the country for certain kinds of produce. I have seen a document produced by one of my my political opponents, offering to the country to start some business with cocoa and to mix cocoa and sugar to make chocolate. And that is a big plan. And I said, okay, welcome, at least we agree on one thing, that cocoa has a future in the country's production cycle. But what they did not know is while they were offering that as something new, that this was happening in Moruga, and we were well ahead of all of that, and the cocoa industry in the Moruga area and surrounding areas can now look towards production of cocoa beans, which can find themselves, those beans being utilized in these factory shells as businesses where we no longer export cocoa beans to London, but we can export something of higher value. We are well ahead of a promise in a manifesto. We are on the ground in Moruga, and those who are already in cocoa, this is for you. Those who know the cocoa land, this is for you. Those who want to invest in the new cocoa species, this is for you. And all of that means create jobs. Create jobs. Because you will need people to run the farms. You will need people to handle the produce. You will need people in these factories. So even though 100 people work here to build these factories, we are looking at the employment of thousands of people. And the one thing that we know is that there's industry among our nationals down here in the South Coast. And we look forward to this production. For import substitution, there are things that we are importing now, significant millions of tens of millions of produce that we are importing now, where if we do what this place allows us to now do, we can have the product produced here in Trinidad and not come through the port having paid for it in US dollars. Let me give you one example. I don't know how many of you have had a pizza recently. I don't know how many of you have pizzas often. Maybe you have children who do, but pizza in Trinidad and Tobago is now a very popular meal. How many of you know how many container loads of pineapple is imported into this country, costing millions of dollars? So when you go to one of our more popular fast food chains and you order your topping and you say you want pineapple, that must be coming from Costa Rica or possibly Hawaii for all you know. But do you also know, as you should, that here in Trinidad and Tobago, some of the best pineapples are grown in this country? So then, why are we importing pineapple if we have the potential to grow and to supply to those pizza toppings? This is what this factory shell means. And what it means to the farmers around, even if you have not been growing pineapple before. We have the commitment from those who import the pineapple on the roadmap to recovery, where we're saying, how can we do things differently and better? There's a commitment in phase 1 of the roadmap to recovery post-COVID that those who import have said, we want to work with the local farmers, the local producers to ensure that they produce pineapple and we will buy from them instead of importing. All we want from them is a commitment to produce so that when we need it, it's available. So you have to produce more on a sustained basis. What more can we say? What more can we want? We off and running with that, and that's only one crop. That's only one crop. So instead of seeing $30 million of imports at the end of the year of somebody else's pineapple, we might see, and we should see, $30 million of product in Trinidad and Tobago, and we should have pineapple for export because Trinidad and Tobago pineapple should become well known around the world, and there's a market for that high quality product that can be produced right here in Trinidad and Tobago. So we create opportunity. What this investment is opportunity. There are many people who see the end product as the beginning. You go and talk to some people in the street outside and you ask them, what has the government done in the last 5 years for you? And I wouldn't be surprised if somebody would say nothing, absolutely nothing. Because personally, you may not have seen it in your hand today. But what the government would have done for you as part of a community, whether it's a farming community or just a community living off the actions of farmers in this area, is to create this facility so that you now not handed the fish for the meal of the hour, but you handed the means to fish and feed yourself permanently going forward. That is what this investment means. And I mentioned the general conversation about talking about agriculture. This government of the last 5 years, there are 3 areas that we have impacted on the effort to improve agricultural production. 3 main areas, among others. 1, initially in the very early days of this government, and even before we became the government, you may recall, or I'm sure you would have forgotten, that before polling day in 2015, not knowing the results of the elections, but hoping to win and become the government, I told this country that the Minister of Agriculture for the next 5 years would be Clarence Rambarat. And he has been the Minister of Agriculture since. And I've done something else as well. I encourage a distinguished son of our soil from Florida to come home to the office of the Prime Minister and to work as an advisor to the Prime Minister of Trinidad and Tobago on agricultural matters. It's the first time in the office of the Prime Minister that there has been an advisor on agriculture. And together, both of them kept the government's focus on agricultural initiatives to bring change in agriculture and to diversify our economy into non-oil and non-gas business. The first thing we did was to ensure that we put effort into the creation of planting material. Because you see, when you're just talking about agriculture, you could talk year after year after year after year. But if you have nothing to plant, then you have nothing to grow. And our tree crop business required planting material. Our agroforestry required planting material. So we started out aiming to produce 1 million pieces of planting material. And if you had followed us in the first 2 or 3 years of this government, you would have seen us at the nurseries, looking at the production of teak plants for planting teak fields and other timber trees, and of course, fruit trees, among citrus and others, avocado, citrus, because if you want to plant, you had to have planting material. And what we found was that with all the talk in the country, there was not an available supply of planting material. Early in that process, we got hit by this disease a disease with a funny name. And we had to abandon some of what we had done because the disease came into the country and struck our seedlings. We had to destroy them. And Dr. Allen worked assiduously with his colleagues abroad to find resistant material and to restart that program. And this year, we were able to provide for planting a whole number of tens of thousands of material for persons who wanted to plant citrus and other tree crop varieties. So we got that. The other thing we did was to set about to increase livestock production in the country for meat and milk. The government had the best farm in the country, dating back to the 70s, out in the north, in Aripo. 1,200 acres of the best farmland, producing precious little, operating in public service in the most unproductive ways. Under public-private partnership, the government went out and we sought the interests of the private sector to come in and partner with the government to make that land productive. After a number of months, we were able, after evaluation by the Ministry of Finance, we got an interested partner from the private sector who undertook to take over that farm, to invest the millions into it, and to run it not like a public service department when you come, you don't come, you work, you don't work, but to run it in a very efficient and productive way. And whereas what was going on there when we started last year, September, was 200 heads of cattle, we're now aiming to have 1,000 heads of cattle on that farm. And while Nestle is now only getting 10% of the milk from local farmers, that farm, in a matter of another year, would begin to supply Nestle with milk. And when the farm is fully operational in this public-private partnership, it will double the national production of fresh milk to Nestle, which is an exporter of milk products into the region, Caribbean and Central America. That's what we have done. Providing good opportunity for investment by the private sector, bringing good potential land into production, expanding our animal herds, and bringing to us food security. So those are things that we have done, not promises, excuse me, what we have done. And this is the third leg of that stool, where here in Moruga, we have built this agro-industrial park to stimulate agricultural production, which will affect from Marak to Mayaro, and all around St. Mary's, and all around Laloon, people who know about farming, people who know about agricultural production, people who grew up in it. This is their invitation to participate in the national economy of Trinidad and Tobago. Idleness should be a thing of the past for young men on the South Coast, because when we begin to produce in this area, all production should be able to be aimed and targeted at an offtake, at a factory where what you produce can be absorbed and produced in a way that it can last upwards to the rest of the country in the north and the east, and of course outwards from Trinidad and Tobago. Ladies and gentlemen, I have no doubt that sometime in the not too distant future, you'll return here for some other purpose, not for the opening or the birth of this enterprise, but I'm sure you'll visit some other company that would one day be showing off its wares to you here as to what machinery they have, what staff they have, and what products they are putting on the local market. When we come to that day, we could say that the potential has been and is being realized fully. This is a gift from the people of Trinidad and Tobago to the people, our fellow citizens of the South Coast. I ask you to use it well. I ask you to show your entrepreneurial skills. I ask you to use the incentives that are available at the Ministry of Trade to start businesses. Get your colleagues to organize cooperatives, because cooperatives can be successful. You work together in partnership, and the state is there to lend a hand. I ask you to use your time wisely. use your days productively, and at the end of it, in this tax-free environment of the agricultural sector, earn and support your family and your community. I look forward to buying your manufactured produce. I look forward to buying Trinidad and Tobago first. I look forward to knowing that what I will be eating is what you have produced for me and my family. And I look forward to knowing that having done that, I'm putting money in your pocket and giving your children a sustained and sustainable future. So I want to thank UDCOT once again for delivering on the promise of building the nation's infrastructure. I want to thank all those extra national entities that help us, ICA and others. And I ask you, the farmers, to not expect us to have put the food in your mouth and also help you to chew it. It is for you to chew now. It's in your mouth. It's in your hands. This area has tremendous potential, and I believe in the people of Moruga and surroundings. Thank you, ministers, and thank you to the staff that created this at every level. We are on the road to food security, and we are on the road to diversifying our economy. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Honorable Prime Minister, and for keeping your promise to the people of Moruga and the environs, and to all of us for giving support and ensuring that our dollar keeps circulating and energizing our economy, and we wish you all the best in the upcoming elections. So right now we have the formalities, the official opening, but first I'd like to say thank you to the government of Trinidad and Tobago for this brand new facility, this Moruga Agro Processing and Light Industrial Park. It promises to bring a lot of opportunity, not only for the people of Moruga, for the citizens of Trinidad and Tobago. We'd like to thank the Ministry of Trade and Industry, the Ministry of Agriculture, Lands and Fisheries, ETEC, Invest TT, Urban Development Corporation of Trinidad and Tobago. We'd like to thank all the exhibitors, and we really look forward to checking them out. In fact, one of the exhibitors has asked the Prime Minister come and, they think it was the tableland farmers, to come and squeeze some sugarcane with them today. We'd like to invite all of you invited guests, especially those from Moruga. And now we have the official cutting of the ribbon, the unveiling of the commemorative plaque, and then, of course, being escorted to the exhibition tour. So we're going to have an usher come and escort Dr. the Honorable Keith Rowley, Senator the Honorable Paula Gopi-Schoon, Minister of Trade and Industry, Senator the Honorable Clarence Rambarat, Dr. the Honorable Lovell Francis, Chairman of ETEC, Mr. Imtiaz Ahmad, and Mrs. Tamika Charles Phillips, Chief Executive Officer of UDCOT, to please go on to the cutting of the ribbon and the unveiling of the commemorative plaque. Then we'll all be invited to the exhibition tour. I just want to say thank you so much, folks, and please remain safe, COVID safe, and get back to your destinations, safely. Thank you.
That was the official opening of the Moruga Agro Processing and Light Industrial Park. Stay tuned to TTT, Chalk City 91.1 FM and TTT Live Online on Facebook as we bring you the developing stories. I'm DK Rostar. Bye for now.